A typical porcelain jacket preparation will be used to demonstrate the technique. The first step involves adaptation of the platinum matrix in the usual manner. Once this is burnished and swaged for close adaptation, the platinum matrix is then removed, and with a sharp pair of scissors the shoulder area is cut off to leave approximately 10 to 20% of the shoulder covered past the axiogingival line angle. After the shoulder area is trimmed, the platinum matrix is placed back on the die and the shoulder area re-burnished. It is important to re-burnish this area so that no porcelain will go underneath the platinum foil. A usual consistency of porcelain is mixed. The first stage involves building up of the core material for bulk. The shoulder area is not covered. With this technique, thorough condensation of the porcelain must be carried out, otherwise cracking can result. In order to carry out good condensation, we use an ultrasonic condensing unit and condense the core material several times to dry it out extremely thoroughly. Once condensation is complete, the core is again inspected to see if there are any areas that are too thin. These are then subsequently built up and again condensed. The core material is slightly wetted so that the build-up can be added. Once the additions to the build-up are made, condensation is again carried out using the ultrasonic condenser. When the first stage of the build-up is complete, the core is then removed for the first firing. It is placed in the oven at 1300 degrees Fahrenheit and raised to 2050 degrees at the rate of 100 degrees per minute. Once it reaches that temperature, there is a hold time of 5 minutes. After the core is fired, it is then placed back on the die and inspected for fit. The second stage of the core build-up involves building up of the margin. In order to do this, the die must be well lubricated. Not only the shoulder area, but the entire die is lubricated with a thick mix of mineral oil to facilitate removal. During the second stage, the shoulder area is built up, and as well any areas that are deemed to be too thin can be added to at the same time. It is important to complete the shoulder build-up within 2 or 3 minutes of applying the mineral oil, otherwise the mineral oil can evaporate and the shoulder will not be lifted off. Again, once the shoulder is complete, condensation is carried out a couple of times for a dense core. The core is then inspected to make sure that the shoulder build-up is complete. To remove the core at this stage, we use a twist-pull action rather than just a straight pull. This enables the core to come off cleanly without leaving any remnants behind on the die. Once the core is removed, we check the die to make sure that no porcelain is left behind on it. We also check the inside of the crown to ensure that no porcelain has gone up inside the platinum foil. It is then fired using the same cycle without a holding time. Once the core is removed from the oven, it is inspected again, placed on the die, and the third stage, which is the correction of the margin, carried out. To do this, the die is again lubricated entirely with a thick mix of mineral oil. The core is lightly moistened with some water for the porcelain to adhere to it. Porcelain is then added just to the margin area, making sure that no porcelain is carried inside onto the platinum matrix. Once the margin is complete, it is then pushed onto the die and excess porcelain will flow out. The shoulder then is complete by adaptation and again using the ultrasonic condensing unit. Once the core is complete, it is condensed for the final time and smoothed. It is then again removed from the die using a twist-pull action and placed in the oven for the third firing. The third firing again involves placing it into the furnace at 1300 degrees Fahrenheit, raising it to 2050 without a hold time. The core is then complete and placed back on the die. Then the crown is built up in the usual manner using porcelain fused to metal porcelains.